Hello and welcome back or welcome to Heart and Mind. I'm Dr. Dina McMillan, and this is an exciting show today because whether you know it or not, November is Men's Mental Health Month. It's an important issue that we don't hear enough about. So today we're going to talk about it. And whether you're a man or a woman, you're related to a man somewhere. And I hope this issue is as important to you as it is to me. So let's get started. Now, first of all, thank you for joining me. And what I have promised is no more boring Tuesdays. One of the reasons I scheduled this show on Tuesday is because most of the time during my week, I have things scheduled every other day except Tuesday. Tuesday's not far enough in the work week for you to do something after work. You still have the bulk of the work week to look forward to. This gives you something to pay attention to, something you can learn. And every show gives you tips and keys that you can use right away. We're all about solutions here on Heart and Mind. And we're on at 8 p.m. Central Time. 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 7 p.m. Central Time, 6 p.m. Mountain Time, and 5 p.m. Pacific Time. My friend Melinda Richards watches in Australia where it is 11 a.m. in Brisbane, where she is. And I have friends in the UK who are insomniacs that also watch live. If you can't watch live, or you want to rewatch a show or show it to someone else, please note you can go on the Daily Clout Network, you can go on Rumble, and you can also go on YouTube and find every episode of this show. Now, you might be saying, why should I bother? Now, the only reason you would say that is because you've never watched this before. As far as I know, I'm the only social psychologist out here every week bringing the science of the mind to the public. And it's not just about complex issues about the brain. In social psychology, we study power dynamics. We study how the people learn, how they're influenced, persuaded, manipulated, coerced, indoctrinated, and brainwashed. And there are factors all over our society that are trying to do that to you. I want to bring you the information that allows you to cut those strings of manipulation, to identify it when you see it. It's actually a superpower. And if you ever listen to my podcast, my Unmasking the Abuser podcast, I describe what I am bringing to the public as a superpower. Once I became a social psychologist, it was as though I could see another color on the spectrum. And this color weaves in and out of our lives and has a huge influence on what we think, what we believe, how we behave, even if we don't even see it happening. Other people are actually trying to change our beliefs and behavior, and many times they're successful unless you can see the strings and put up your shield. That's what we talk about here. One of my biggest overall goals with this show is to make the public manipulation proof. If you don't want to be taken advantage of, this is a show you need to watch. And speaking of not being taken advantage of, please go on Amazon and get your own copy of the Pfizer papers. Dr. Naomi Wolf, Amy Kelly, and a whole host of other people spent years going through the Pfizer papers that they tried to hide from the public. Pfizer actually went to court to be able to legally hide information on the effects of their vaccine for 75 years. The court said no. So they decided to just drown anybody who wanted to look in paperwork. But some people were willing to go through it and bring that information to you. COVID was 5 years ago. But since no one has gone to jail for what happened then, it could easily happen again. Protect yourself. Get your own copy of the Pfizer papers. And please know, Daily Cloud is the network that's bringing you this information. And you and I and everyone, we need to support their historic work. So off you go to Amazon, get your copy, but wait until after the show. And wait a minute, I think I see some comments. Oh, Roscoe's here. Roscoe says, Roscoe sings, one of my regular audience members, says he's bloody out of his mind, and thank you for everything you do, Dr. Dina. You are definitely underappreciated. Thank you again. Oh, isn't that nice? Thank you, Roscoe. We need to get the word out. It's not about me. It's about this information. No one else is bringing you this information, and you need to know. It's what they're doing, what is going on in society. It's not just marketing. It's not just selling you things. It is selling you ideas. It is selling you norms. It is selling you behaviors. It is selling you ideology. And if you don't know how to recognize it and protect yourself, it's going to impact you and your family. Let's be smart. Now, today's topic, because I have been known, I have a reputation. Guys have said to me after I've given even my Unmasking the Abuser talk, which I focus on the majority when I give that talk. So still, the people who are most vulnerable to getting lured in and abused on a very severe level in an abusive relationship, it's still women. Although I have to say, in the last 10 years, the proportion of abused men has doubled, but it's still women. So a lot of guys that have come to my training, have come to my workshops, seminars, they've sat there at first very wary, expecting me to be a very anti-male type of woman. And then they come and meet me at the podium after I finish and have told me, wow, you don't dislike men at all. No, I don't like bullies. I don't care what sex they are. So my work with Unmasking the Abuser, my work period, is about identifying people who want to manipulate and take advantage. And no, I don't dislike men. I love good men. And I think we need to give good men more support. So we're taking mental health out of the shadows because men are still so likely to hide it when they're going through a very hard time. We don't want that. I want you to stay with me, because if you have any men in your life that you love, you need to watch this show. Did you know every major financial collapse has been preceded by the same 7 warning signs? Before the Great Depression, before the 1970s stagflation, before the crash of 2008. Now all 7 are flashing red again for the first time in over 15 years. American Alternative Assets just released a free report called the Bellwether Signal. It breaks down each of these signals and shows how to protect your retirement before the next wave hits. In times of uncertainty, gold has always been the ultimate safe haven. It held strong in 2008. It surged during the inflation crisis of the 70s, and it remains one of the few assets not tied to political manipulation or central bank policy. Find out why central banks are buying it in record amounts and how you can too. Call 855-803-GOLD or visit cloutgold.com to get your free copy of the Bellwether Signal. That's 855-803-GOLD or cloutgold.com. Learn the signs, protect your savings, make your move while you still can. Now, One of the challenges we have, because I know I have a lot of good men watching this show, and can I say, if you are watching this show live, please go to the platform, whatever platform you're on, and sign in. And that allows you to do just what Roscoe just did. It allows you to write a comment, ask a question while I'm here. So you don't even have to wait. So sign in where you are. But the problem we have, and this is the majority of my audience, very masculine men, this is what you're taught. Be tough. Suck it up. Don't complain. Don't whine. Handle it yourself. If you're going through something, you take care of it. Don't depend on anyone else. Don't ask for help. That's weakness. So what we have to do in this show is talk about how you retain masculinity and also know when it's important to ask for the help you need. It is not weakness. It can keep you alive. We need to reduce the stigma and stop equating mental health issues with weakness. That's the goal of this show. And I'm hoping that you're going to ask yourself some tough questions as you go through this. And you're going to not just ask questions about yourself. Often men will have friendships where they participate in something together. They watch a sport, they play a sport, they go fishing, they go to a bar on certain nights to watch the game. Their interactions are extremely superficial. They may brag about the women they're sleeping with, but they don't talk about the fact they're not sleeping because right now they're scared they're going to lose their job. We need to talk about how men can be more supportive of each other without becoming what the woke want you to do. We're not talking about getting in touch with your feminine side. We're talking about doing something that you need that could keep you alive. Remember, stress, failing sometimes, losing sometimes, loneliness, doubt. These are universal human traits. These are not equated with one sex or the other. Please get it out of your head that only weak people, only losers, that one event defines you. If you look at most of the men who are hugely successful, they've withstood incredible losses, failures, public humiliations. Talk to the Donald, talk to Elon, and look at what they've gone through, and they're not alone. It's not a sign of weakness to go through these periods. You have to know how to handle it because it's important to get back on your feet. It is not an indication that you're not masculine or that you're not capable. One of the reasons I keep emphasizing, if you've watched the show before, I keep emphasizing getting a hold of, even just watching the YouTube videos of Carol Dweck's talking about the growth mindset. When you have a growth mindset, not a fixed mindset, you don't allow a failure to define you. You don't even allow a failure to convince you that you're not ever going to be able to do whatever it is. You say to yourself, okay, I need to learn more. I need to refine my approach. I'm just not successful yet. She really talks about that word, yet. That's one of the things that can keep your mental health strong when you go through the vicissitudes of life. And one of the reasons I'm emphasizing this, the suicide rate for men is approximately 4 times the rate for women. That's terrifying. That's unacceptable. I don't know why we aren't doing more as a society to address this issue. We can't afford to lose any of you. But the fact that it's 4 times higher, if one of the reasons domestic violence gets so much attention is because it's still approximately, I'd say it's been 80-20 for about 40 years. where 80% of the serious victims of abuse have been women. Now I'd say it's probably 75%, but it's still primarily women who experience the long-term complete loss of personal agency, the coercive control, the domestic violence, homicide. It's still primarily women, and you hear about it all the time. Why aren't we hearing about the suicide risk for men? Why aren't we putting more effort into saving our men? That's one of the things I want to do. Let's look at it though for a second. And if you have an opinion, sign in, make a comment, ask a question. This is so important. This is not something we can just overlook. Why are men more vulnerable to these extreme mental health crises and the likelihood of suicide? Because the masculine role is all about strength. It's all about being independent. And as a result, many men, especially once they get married, they end up very isolated. But even before marriage, I know so many men who have a whole group of friends. Or for you, Melinda, if you're watching this in Australia, and the people in Australia, because as you know, I've lived in Australia for a long time, they call them mates. So those are their best buddies, their BFFs. These are their friends. And I've known a lot of men who have friends that they see every week, see constantly, and they know so little about them. They know their job. They know what kind of car they drive. They know maybe their politics, but they don't know what they fear. They don't know what hurts them. They don't know what keeps them up at night. When women have friendships, we know these things about each other, and it offers us support when we're going through a hard time. Men tend to be a little bit more with the armor on. Men also have more economic pressures. Even more than women, men are defined by their job and by how financially successful they are. Men are, I would also argue, so one of the things that you don't see is talked about as much when this is discussed, but I think it's really important. Men are also action oriented. If you've ever read about like Men Are From Mars, that's not very credible in many ways. But one thing that is true that was talked about then is that often when women discuss problems, they just want to get it out. They want to vent. They don't necessarily want somebody to come along and say, hey, here's how you fix it. Now that depends on the woman, because task-oriented women like me, alpha females like me, I don't want to talk about a problem unless the next discussion is how do we address it. That's how I am. But a lot of women aren't like that. But men are. Men, if they look at a problem, if they think about a problem, they're usually about, okay, what action can I take to address this issue? And if they don't see a way out, that can lead to extreme despair, and it can lead to them taking a very conclusive action with regard to harming themselves, where it's not tentative, where they do something that there's no way back. And that's, for me, this is so scary. One of the solutions for all of this, have some self-awareness. We're going to talk about ways. You know me. If you've watched this show before, you know me. I'm not going to talk about, oh, you need to do this, and not give you some tips on how to do it. It's all well and good to say, oh, you know what you should do. I hate it when people do that. Don't you hate that? When people come to you, well, you know what you should do. And they have no clue as to what you should do. I'm going to provide you some steps. One of the steps, self-awareness. Do a wellness check on yourself every once in a while. Ask yourself, how am I doing? Admit to yourself when you're feeling overwhelmed, and take that masculine task orientation and decide to put it into action to address the problem. Don't just say, oh, I'm overwhelmed, there's nothing I can do. Okay, there we go. Here's A really big reason. This is one of the main reasons that men will self-harm. Burnout. How do you know if you're heading for a burnout? Let's talk about it. Golly gee, I'm experiencing technical difficulties. Hold on. There we go. Oh, it's just not going. Ah, come on you. Okay. Give me a second because this is important and I don't want it. Let me just remove it for a second. And then, hello there. Let me add it back to the stage and see if we can get it to work. And I do apologize. And also, I should let you know that if you ever want information that I talk about on this show, you're welcome to go to join me on X. And oh my goodness, I've never had this happen before. Isn't this interesting? Okay. While we're waiting for that, what I'm going to do, so if I'm looking down, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to actually read it to you, okay? Because it doesn't seem to want to show up on the screen. Oh my goodness. I said this was important and it just doesn't want to cooperate. Okay, here we go. And one of the things I also wanted to say, you know how I said self-awareness, right? Another solution is other awareness. Pay attention and reach out to your friends in trouble. So, burnout. Let's talk about the physical red flags. It seems to only want to show you this one. It's just not going. Okay, what we'll do is this. This is not the one I wanted to show you. So I'm going to read. I will pay attention. And as I said, I will try to post this later. There are slides before this one because the first red flag is physical red flags. This is the first sign you're heading for burnout. You're waking up tired no matter how long you slept. You're getting headaches or more headaches. You have muscle tension or unexplained aches in your body. There's a change in your appetite. Oh, either you're not hungry or you're stress snacking. You have a noticeable increase in your intake of alcohol, nicotine, caffeine, sugar, or other pharmaceuticals. Emotional red flags. What are the emotional red flags for burnout? You feel flat, numb, irritable, or emotionally disconnected. Even small problems feel overwhelming or instantly make you angry. Your patience with the people in your life, even your loved ones, has plummeted. You feel less joy in things that used to recharge you. How are you doing so far? Okay, let's talk about mental red flags of burnout. You have trouble concentrating, remembering things, or making decisions. Your mind feels foggy or slow. You're constantly I have difficulty with this word, catastrophizing, which is turning every problem into the worst thing possible. I know people who do this as a matter of course, but if you weren't normally like this, something goes a little wrong. I remember when my daughter was small, she would get anxious if I couldn't immediately spot our car in the parking lot. She'd have me looking, I'd look and not immediately spot it. Is our car gone? No, the car's not gone. I just forgot where I put it. What about dreading work, even the parts you used to be good at and you used to enjoy? Now, let's look at the behavioral red flags. You're withdrawing from your friends, your family, your activities. You're working longer hours, but getting less done. You're shutting down emotionally instead of talking things out, where something you used to do. You used to talk things out. You're not doing that anymore. You're becoming very sarcastic, cynical, and having a what's the point attitude about so many things when that is not who you were. So, how you doing so far? We still have a few more. Here's another one. Identity red flags for burnout. You've tied your entire worth to your productivity or income. So if you lose your job, for instance, of course you're going to mourn that. Of course it's going to be put you in a situation of chaos for a while. You're going to be lost for a little bit. But you will recover unless your whole identity was tied up with that job, with that income. You feel ashamed of needing rest or help. You have that, I will just keep going through whenever you think you should do that. You become exhausted because you don't think you should take any alternative other than just continuing to do twice as much if things are going really tough for you. And you feel like you're failing, even when you're hitting your goals. Now, again, as I said, I will try to find a way to post these, okay? Because these are important. But if you checked 6 or more things, if 6 or more things that I mentioned are things you're experiencing right now, or they're things you're noticed in someone you're close to, that's a real warning sign. It's not weakness, it's burnout. And burnout can be very dangerous. It's not something you can afford to overlook. I want you all to be able to recover from what life throws at you, from the vicissitudes that we all endure. I want you to recover. So if you're experiencing burnout, we're going to talk about what you can do about it. I also want you to beware that bootstraps advice. You just need to work harder. Your mindset, the problem isn't that you're overwhelmed. It's how you're thinking about it. Or somebody that just tells you to man up. You go to them and say, I am not sleeping. I am experiencing a real crisis here. I don't know what to do. And they just say, oh, you just need to man up. That's the wrong person to talk to. Seek out real in-person help from someone qualified. Now, this can include your religious leader, but here's something important. Over the years, I have worked with Orthodox rabbis, priests, preachers, reverends. I've worked with a wide range of people, and I've seen real trouble when someone feels that because they are a faith leader, that means they are qualified to offer psychological advice. Now, some people who are faith leaders actually get training to be able to offer counseling, to be able to even offer therapy. Check before you do. Now, that doesn't mean you shouldn't talk to this person, but if you talk to a faith leader who's not qualified, also talk to someone qualified, because sometimes this person with the best of intentions can lead you astray and make the problem worse instead of better. Now, here's another big issue that is overwhelming right now. People are getting their advice on TikTok, on social media, because they're embarrassed or they don't really have a support system. So they go to social media to figure out what they should do. A lot of those forums, like people have talked about how many Reddit forums, you go in there because you're starting to feel so down and life seems hopeless and you're just really on a downward spiral. You go to a group online to help you, except all of them are validating extreme responses to this. They're not helping. They're normalizing what you're going through and really prodding you to obey your worst instincts on this. You have to be so careful. They also may be trying to sell you something. Here's a program that'll save your life. Here's the best. I have something. I took this. I bought this. I ran this. I went to this weekend. They're trying to sell you something. So while they will pretend, have you ever met somebody like that? I know somebody right now who sells essential oils. And she's superficially a nice enough person, but she's so obsessed with selling these oils that she only pretends to listen when you talk to her about anything. She's just looking for an opportunity to hook in and try to tell you that her essential oils are the solution to your problem. That's what happens often on social media. They're only pretending to want to help. Because after all, they're trying to increase their popularity. They get paid by the clicks. They get, with the advertising dollars, they get paid for having as many people as possible on their site. Their ultimate goal is not necessarily to help you. Please keep that in mind. If a group you go to raises your fears, increases your anxiety, or tries to sell you on a quick cure, don't believe it. Be smart enough to know this is too dangerous, because it's not just bad or wrong. It's dangerous. It's dangerous to immerse yourself in that mindset. You need to stay out of there, because they could encourage you to do something that in the depths of despair, you would have made a different decision if you actually had genuine support. So you need to work on building a real life support network. Hear me, guys. Work on building a real life support network. Even if you're the kind of guy you're kind of on your own, and it can't or shouldn't be just one person, okay? You need to diversify here. And if you've watched this show, I don't try to say, if you do that. Now, I said stay away from those groups if they're trying to lead you astray or encourage you to take extreme reactions when you're feeling down and dismal, or saying, oh, your life will never get better. You may as well end it all. That's toxic and it needs to be avoided. But if you have friends that you have a good time with, you do sports with, you watch sports with, you go to games with, you do this, and these are not guys that you can tell your problems to. You don't feel comfortable sharing when you're going through a mental health crisis or episode or issue or burnout. That's okay. You don't only have to have the support system. You can still have these other guys. I don't believe, that's why I have the circles of intimacy, which thanks to Roscoe, I've done twice. So if you look up these episodes of Heart and Mind, be sure to look up circles of intimacy, because as we go into the holiday season, nothing is more important. Learning and understanding how to deal with people. And one of the things I loved about the circles of intimacy, the first reaction is not rejection. So I looked at people in my family where it was an imbalanced relationship that was causing me pain. My answer wasn't, oh, I can't have contact with them anymore. My answer was, I'm getting hurt because I'm prioritizing them differently than they're prioritizing me. So I need to prioritize them the same way. If I'm being treated like an acquaintance, I need to treat them the same way. But there's nothing wrong with having a group of people that you have superficial fun with. You don't only have to have the deep and meaningful conversations or the deep and meaningful support system. these guys are fun too, and they play an important role in your life. They help you relax, they validate you, they give you some fun, they get you out of your own head. Now, I want you to try to establish, pay attention to this, a 3-tier network. One is for accountability, and often even superficial guys are like this, are good for this. When you try to run a line about, oh, I'm going to do this or I'm going to do that, somebody that's got really good critical thinking skills that says, nah, or wait a minute, didn't you say that last month and I haven't seen you take any steps? What have you done? Those people have a place in your life, and especially as part of your support network, because they keep you from rationalizing, they keep you from deluding yourself. So have somebody that holds you accountable. Have someone else for emotional support. For most men, this is their romantic partner. Hopefully it's your romantic partner, because you don't necessarily want to be vulnerable to just everybody, but somebody who's emotionally there for you. And one as a professional safety net. That is a professional counselor or therapist or group that you attend. And I would prefer you do it in person. It is too easy to deceive yourself and others online. There is something magical about being in the same room with other people. So if you can, try to find a way, even if you can't attend all the time, to find even a group or a counselor or somebody that you can actually see in person. Because not only will you get information on all different levels, because we've talked about how the brain operates on a lot of different levels. You'll be picking up all sorts of information if you're in a room with someone that you can't necessarily get just from seeing them on a screen. And I know that's one of my limitations too. And we're going to talk about that as we go. Now, I want you to also remember this. If you're going through a crisis, a mental health crisis of any kind, whether it's despair, whether it's loneliness, whether it's burnout, whatever you're going through, whether it's you pushing yourself too hard and you're so anxious that you can't sleep and you're hyper competitive and you're never able to relax, whatever you're going through, please know while you're going through it, you're vulnerable. And there are predators out there who are looking to take advantage of that. I can't count the number of men who have come to me because they've gotten involved with women, either real women or pretend women online, who saw their vulnerability and recognized it was an opportunity to fleece someone out of all of their cash, or just get involved with somebody who will pretend to help you, but they're really looking to take advantage. So I want you to remain wary. While you're getting help, please keep looking things up. Like I said, if you have a spiritual leader you respect, look up their credentials. Ask them their credentials. If they're not trained in therapy, counseling, psychology of some kind, be aware that that is a limitation depending on what you're going through. I'm not saying don't go to them as well. I would advise you to please go to them as well. But don't let someone be a pretend psychologist, because sometimes they can lead you astray. And I want you to remain wary of anyone who makes a profit off your crisis, off your loneliness, your anxiety, your feelings of desperation. Think about it. This person who's claiming they have a solution for me, what are they getting out of it? Ask yourself. And I also want you to be really careful with men. This is one of the biggest issues when they're going through a crisis. They start misusing anything that will take their mind off of the problems. So we're talking about going to bars and drinking too much. We're talking about buying alcohol and drinking when they're alone. We're talking about drug dealers and just so you know, I've studied marijuana since I was a teenager. It is not harmless. I don't know why they're making it legal. As someone who works in mental health, I'm extremely wary. And by the way, I protect my brain in every way I can. I had a glass of wine about 3 or 4 months ago. I just don't drink, never done drugs. I always went, I don't trust myself not to get addicted. Because if you get dependent on that drug, let's not use the word, let's not use the A word. Let's not call it addiction. Let's call it dependence. If you get dependent on a drug, you're going to rationalize its negative effects. The same way when you get dependent on a person and you rationalize away the negative impact of having this person take over your life. So be very wary. Online romantic partners. This is not the time to get involved with somebody who's willing to just pay a lot of attention to you so you don't really look very closely at them, or you don't see them in person and it's all online and it's all pretend. Realize for all of us, no matter how smart and strong we are, when we are going through a mental health issue or crisis, when we're lonely, when we're anxious, when we're burned out, when we're scared, we are extremely vulnerable. So we have to be very careful of any choice we make at that time. We don't want to make long-term decisions to try to solve a short-term problem. So you don't marry somebody who helps you through a mental health crisis. And speaking thereof, friends who want more from you. I know so many men who've ended up married to women who are someone who wanted more from them than they wanted to offer. These women are not what these men are really romantically seeking, but they wait until these men are vulnerable, and then they're there for them. So the men feel obligated to have these women in their lives. They end up married to someone they're not in love with, could never be in love with. It's the plot of Jerry Maguire. If you're too young to know Jerry Maguire, it's still a fun movie. Watch it. And look at how Renee Zellweger's character takes complete advantage of Tom Cruise's character because he's going through a crisis. Don't be like that. No long-term decisions when you're going through a crisis, please. And those people who are selling you those hyper expensive, I'll save your life in a weekend. Do not buy into that. I know the exact tactics they use to convince you that they're the answer to all your problems. What they are is a drain on your bank account. And it's not worth it just to get through a short-term crisis. A counselor is much better, especially if you get a counselor or a therapist who says, look, you're basically normal, you're going through a crisis, let me help you through this, and then we'll call it a day. You don't want somebody that is going to just string you on and keep you going forever. Got to be careful. We're going to need to have a talk about how to pick a good therapist or counselor. Also, when you're feeling really down, be careful. Remember, the algorithm on your phone or on your PC pays attention to the sites you visit. So you start visiting really negative sites, and they're going to start offering you more of those. You're going to look up and you're going to be contacted by every depressed site on the internet and all of the short-term, hyper expensive solutions to those problems. So it's going to make things worse. And don't spend time with people who want to feed the crisis. Sometimes, let's say you're really successful and you're going through an issue because you're not sure the IPO is coming up, for instance, or you have a possible promotion coming up. You're really anxious. You don't think your boss likes you. You're not sleeping. Anytime your sleep is affected, you're going through a crisis, and it's going to impact your judgment. So please highlight what I just said. Anytime your sleep is impacted, your judgment is affected. So be very careful on the decisions you make. I know recently, just even I have jet lag. Oh my goodness, the stuff I forgot in the hotel. I mean, goodness gracious. Now I have to replace it. Why? Because I wasn't sleeping, because I had jet lag. Okay. That's not even a mental health crisis. That's just being in different time zones. But one of the biggest issues that is not spoken about enough is impact on sleep, because it's one of the biggest and most important ways our brain tells us, pay attention, you're in trouble. Do not, let's say, but also be careful when you're around, who you're around when you're in a crisis. You could have friends who envy you, who want to feed that, who give you bad advice when you're going through a crisis, because they want you to stay down, because they don't want you to be above them. You've got to be very careful. And the problem is that a lot of men are too careful. You may actually have friends that you can actually tell what's going on and they'll be there for you. But be wary, see how they react, put a little tester out there. If it doesn't go as well as you expect, pull back, say nothing lost, let me keep going. That person isn't for that. And please remember to give yourself a break. A few smart steps can get you back on track. But I don't want you to collapse yourself or define yourself as a failure or it's never getting better. Don't let that overwhelm you. So here are some simple steps that can help you. You know, I'm always going to end on a high note. We're going to talk about things that can help you. Spend time in sunlight, especially first thing in the morning. Put those feet on some grass. Walk outside, look up, smell the air. I know when I was going through, goodness knows, being in Melbourne during COVID was no joke. Harshest, toughest, longest lockdown in the world. So the way I handled it, I got up really early and I went out. We were only allowed out for an hour a day. When we were in lockdown, we were only allowed out 1 hour a day. We had to wear a mask outside, and we would be stopped by police to make sure we hadn't gone more than 5 kilometers from our house. That's just 3 miles, by the way. And all they ever did, the media was filled with things scaring you about what would happen with if you got COVID, and especially what would happen if you didn't get vaccinated. So I started getting up even before dawn, and I would do my 1 hour at dawn, rain or shine. I went out, I looked at the trees, I smelled the air, I let the sun shine on my face, I listened to the birds, I just basked in the beauty of God's world. And it really helped me through as far as mental health goes. So this is something that really works. Why do you think I'm emphasizing it enough? That's sunlight, that vitamin D. They told you to do the exact opposite of what would strengthen your immune system. Nothing strengthens your immune system and staves off mental health issues like vitamin D. And the best way to get vitamin D is to spend time in sunlight, no sunglasses, no sunblock. Let the sun just shine on your skin first thing in the morning. And if you can, take your shoes off, walk on the beach, walk in the grass, spend your time on some dirt. Here's another thing you can do. Try something new. If you're feeling down, if you're anxious, if you watch this show because you feel like you're burning out right now. And again, I apologize about the technical issues. I've never had that happen before, where some of the slides just wouldn't show. I'll try to find a way to get those to you. And also, you can contact me on X and I'll send you the list. But it's important to look at that and say, am I burning out? If so, how can I stave it off? Try something new, whether it's taking a cooking class, whether it's learning a language, whether it's finally buying Carol Dweck's book on or watching her TED Talk or watching her YouTube videos on the growth mindset. Do something different. If you stay the same way you are and reacting the same way you are, you're going to stay in that mindset. Your mind is going to think this is okay with me. Do something new, doesn't matter what it is. Also, another thing, when you get overwhelmed, when you're burning out, when you're depressed, when you're lonely, you tend to pull away, especially men. They tend to go into bear mode. They go into hibernation mode. Force yourself to do something you used to enjoy. Even if you don't enjoy it as much as you did before, yet you're sending a strong signal to your brain by getting out of your comfort zone and allowing yourself to be in a situation, something that you used to enjoy. Also, when I talked about being careful of what you do online, here's something that positive you can do online. Look up people who've gone through a tough time, who've gone through a situation where they've been unemployed or lost their investment or were kicked out of their company or went through some kind of major crisis and they recovered. Look and listen to them. See what they did. Pay attention to that. Remember, you are not just communicating with the part of you that is sad or overwhelmed or anxious or feeling burnt out. You are communicating with those other parts of your brain and they have no filter. So if you keep exposing your brain to information that says, hey, I can get better. I can use this as a jumping off point to actually do better than I ever expected. And you're watching these people, you're listening to these people. As you do, you're saying, what do I have in common with this individual? What do I have in common with that individual? Get some motivational talks. I found people like Anthony Robbins can be very helpful because he talks about what to do and he gives very specific information. But he's not the only one. Find somebody who resonates with you, somebody that you can really look at them and say, hey, I can do that. Remember, you're telling your brain, you're teaching your brain what you want from it. If you want it to recover from this situation, if you want it to move away from loneliness, if you want it to move away from burnout, you want it to move away from anxiety, you want it to move away from depression, you have to communicate that to your brain. And in order to communicate to your brain, you have to get information into your subconscious. Your subconscious pays attention to what you do. Your subconscious mind is not language-based. It pays attention to what you do. And that's why when I say something like try something new, it can be as simple as taking a new way to get home from work. It can be as simple as saying, I rejected this solution when I was first unemployed, but somebody suggested this. I said, no, I have nothing to lose. Let me try it. You are telling your brain, light up, fire up, come up with a solution. And again, making a strong decision that you are going to have a growth mindset from now on can make all the difference in the world. I've never seen anything that is just like flipping a switch in your brain, like the growth mindset. All you have to do is tell your brain, I can handle anything. It may be a little challenging, but I can get through this. I'm strong. And because I am a positive person, because I am a worthwhile person, I am also open to any positive information that will help me accomplish my goals. So you don't put your head down, you keep your head up. Make sure, and also pay attention to your physiology. Now, I didn't put this on the list, but I should have. Pay attention to your physiology. One of the things that happens when we're going through a tough time, we tend to sleep in the fetal position. We tend to keep our head down. We tend to pull ourselves in. Don't do that. Simple thing, go to TED Talks and look up power poses by social psychologist Amy Cuddy. She's a professor at Harvard, and her power poses, she talks about experiments that they did where they had people hold a position that people who are confident and powerful, they move their body a certain way. They hold themselves a certain way. They had people hold those positions for 2 minutes and then interact with strangers, and they looked to see what those strangers said about these people after they held those power poses. And the people perceived them as more confident, more capable, etc. So you can actually, it's not faking it, it's real. What you're doing is teaching your brain what you want it to do. And I want you to do that. And when you get good information, list the recovery steps and then actually do them. Do them and stick with them. Okay? Be disciplined. You're disciplined now. The discipline it took to get the job you had or the partner you had or you've got discipline. Put the discipline to the recovery steps and stick with them. And don't be afraid to network with the people you meet while you're recovering, but make sure that they are a good influence. You've got to be, while I'm advising you to network, I do advise you also to be careful, because remember, you're still vulnerable. So your judgment is going to be a little bit off. The faster you recover, the more your judgment will recover as well. Now, any guys, questions or comments, or women with questions or comments about the men in their lives, ways they can be more supportive? I would say if you are a woman and you've watched this show to try to figure out how to support a man, be his emotional support, but don't try to be all three roles, and don't nag him. All that will do is push him further into hibernation mode, and that's not going to help either of you. Now, I want to tell you before we leave, I want to thank you about this. And if you have questions or comments, please, please, please get a hold of me. Ask me. I want to help you. My company, Ethical Strategic Solutions, I do all sorts of training and education programs. If you are somebody who works for a company that has to train or educate your staff, or you provide training to the public, I want you to get in touch with me, because I take social psychology and put it into my work. So it is inspired and lasting and measurable change. People get tired of doing training year after year and not really seeing a tangible difference, or 3 months later, everything's back to the way it was before. We can do better than that. So get in touch with me. And also, I'm going to soon be offering online classes on your favorite topics. So if you have a topic you want me to do an online class for, please let me know. I will have 2 levels. I will have a broad level where everybody can come on board, and I will also offer specialized platinum level classes. And don't worry, they're not going to be that expensive, but they will be smaller classes where each person gets specialized information from me. So contact me and let me know. The easiest way to contact me is to go on X at Dr. Dina 1. Now, my website is ethicalstrategic.com. So thank you very much for being with me today. If you have an idea of something you need to know as we go into this very volatile holiday season, you have something you want to learn about, talk about, discuss, contact me on X and let me know. Otherwise, I will see you next Tuesday because I promised no more boring Tuesdays.